Hello and welcome to this episode of the Spiced In Podcast. My name's Jacob and I'm your host. We have a lot to talk about this week, so we're just gonna hop right into it as quickly as possible. You may have noticed I was not here last week to talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 12, but we'll be doing Chapter 12 and 13 both in this episode. Before that, we have a short bit of news. It was announced that a Dr. Aphra script based on the audio drama will be released coming next year. The script was written by Sarah Kuhn and will be very similar to the Dooku Jedi Lost script released shortly after that audio drama. One nice little added detail is the addition of a dramatis personae, which is the compilation of all the characters and their descriptions at the beginning of the book, which is very helpful for a script, whether that be if you're just reading straight Macbeth or any other Shakespearean work, or, a audio drama for Star Wars. But the nice added feature is that the dramatis personae in the Dr. Aphra audio drama will be, the descriptions of these characters will be from the mouth of Dr. Aphra herself. So, for herself, it says something along the lines of being super awesome. It's in her voice. I'm not going to try and randomly recall what these are, but all the descriptions are in her voice, which is a nice little fun added feature. Some other news we got is Squadron's having some big updates the end of this year. They're adding private matches, they added some new alien faces, and the biggest addition of all, they're adding the B-Wing for the New Republic as a new bomber class, and they're adding the TIE Defender for the Empire as another fighter class. So all the fans of this game have been clamoring for these two ships, and I never expected to see them, but I'm super excited to be able to play with these ships coming in less than a month now. TIE Defender is amazing because I love Thrawn, and you have that TIE Defender Thrawn connection. But with the B-Wing, I think it's going to be one of the most fascinating ships to fly just because it is so large and it's going to have the gyroscopic cockpit. So just like being able to fly that and have a bearing for how, the giant wing that's sticking off the side of your ship, making sure you're not flying into things. I'm assuming the turning radius is going to be huge. So you're not going to accidentally whip it around and hit things super often, but I'm excited to see how they handle it, and I will definitely hop more back into that game when the B-Wing and the TIE Defender come out in December. From a personal podcast standpoint, we have quite a few things. I know, again, like I said, I wasn't here last week. The plan was last week I was going to talk about Chapter 12 and Myths and Fables by George Mann. I have finished Myths and Fables. However, I didn't feel like talking about 2 chapters of The Mandalorian and a book. So we're going to hold that off till next week when we'll talk about Chapter 14 and the book. But a quick heads up, or a quick preview. I liked it. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that next week. More podcast news. Since the last time I talked to you, I've passed 1 year of doing the podcast. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a nice, exciting time. And I'm glad to spend it all with you. And I'm excited to spend the next year with you as well. In celebration, sort of the 1 year anniversary, which was on the 18th, by the way, I released a new video. A new part, or new entry into a new series of videos, which is Live from the Beacon. It's a more highly produced, slightly video series talking about everything to do with the High Republic. So, if you're interested in the High Republic, I would check that out. I plan on covering everything. The first episode was all about the connections to the High Republic in existing canon. And next episode, I'm probably either going to... my original plan was talking about concept art, but since I recorded that, they released the first 8 chapters of Flight of the Jedi, so I need to probably... I don't know, we might mix things around, but it's a lot of fun, and if you like the High Republic, I suggest you check it out. I've had some fun with it, and put a lot of effort into making sure it's something of quality. So with that said, we're going to move on to The Mandalorian and start with Chapter 12, The Siege. This episode was not as exciting as Chapter 13, so we're going to kind of go through pretty quickly. Our very quick plot rundown is Mando needs some repairs on his ship, so he heads back to Navarro to get help from Cara and Greef Karga. While he's there, they want him to help take down a remnant Imperial base, so they can rid Navarro of the last bits of the Empire's clutches. They manage to do that. They make some shocking discoveries along the way, and Mando flies out to his next stop, on his way to fulfill his quest. So, that's that. I guess I'm sorry I didn't give a non-spoiler warning or a spoiler warning for that, but this episode's over a week old at this point, so I don't really feel bad. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you've caught up with at least that much. So I thought it was an okay episode. Without getting too deep into it, I didn't enjoy the appearance of a certain character. It made me more uncomfortable than I was expecting. So, anyways, there were some fun moments though throughout that I kind of want to talk about. Just the beginning with Baby Yoda in the back of the Razor Crest trying to fix wires is like very, very reminiscent of the scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Groot trying to like arm the bomb and Rocket screaming at him. He's like, no, don't press that button. You have to press this button and that button. And yeah, same thing with Mando being like, cross the red wire and the blue wire, but they cannot touch. And you have to put that one there. And then it's like, it's a funny little gag that it was incredibly similar. And before they head to Navarro to get those repairs, we see another cool moment where Mando's lifting his helmet up a little bit to get some soup in when he's around Baby Yoda. So it's seeming like his cult upbringing is cracking a little bit. So we'll see how that progresses through the rest of the season. Skipping ahead a little bit, when they're walking through the newly rejuvenated town, in the background there's a cool statue of IG-11 at the standoff outside the lava tunnel from the end of last season. They find out that the bar is now a school for young children. There's a protocol droid teaching the kids about trade routes, and they talk about the Corellian Run and Hydian Way. And while there, Baby Yoda steals some Macrons from a kid. And if you want your own Baby Yoda Macrons, they are available from Williams and Sonoma for $50 for a dozen. I'm not kidding. That's a thing you can do. I'm good. Just enjoying the show as is. They leave Baby Yoda there and head to the kind of like town office where we find the Mythrol from season 1 is being the clerk of the town because he owes Grief Karga a debt of like many centuries. And I just like get out of the way. It kind of makes me uncomfortable throughout the episode how they talk to him and treat him. Like I realize that he committed a crime and he owes him a debt. And I'm assuming the Mythrol's lifetime is longer than a couple centuries if they're just being willy-nilly about it. But they treat him like an object. I feel like it's supposed to be played off for comedy, but it's like, ooh, this makes me uncomfortable. It's like, Grief, like anytime he like objects, Grief's like, shut up, just do what I told you. I don't care how you feel. If you really need more motivation, I'll take like a tiny bit of time off your sentence, but do what I tell you. And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But anyways, they talk about their mission to go take down this base, and if they destabilize the lava core, it'll blow up, and that'll help them. So they go there, they break in, they take out an officer in like the main headquarters and steal a code cylinder, which is the first time we've actually seen them used because they used them to open the door to the reactor. First time we've seen them used in live action. They were used at least once or twice in Rebels, but this is the first time I've seen them used in live action, which is cool. They make the Mythrol turn off the coolant for the reactor, so it goes boom, and he complains about the lack of Imperial guardrails, which a nice little funny touch when we're so used to seeing no safety on like the Death Star. On their way out, they see some scientists trying to purge some information, and they also have the same Kaminoan patches on their shoulder, just like Dr. Pershing. Turns out that this is not a forward operating base, this is a cloning scientific base. We see vats of blue goo with some floating humanoids in it, and that leaves us with the big question of this episode. Who's in there, why are they in there, and what purpose does this all serve? We see a recording of Dr. Pershing talking about how a body had rejected blood from Baby Yoda. They took his blood because he has a super high M count, which is obviously referring to midichlorians, and he doesn't want to experiment on their next volunteer due to a high likelihood of failure. He needs more blood if he's going to continue on with his experiments, and he tells Moff Gideon he will not disappoint him. So Mandalorian's obviously confronted with the fact that Moff Gideon is not dead, and they get a closer look at the bodies. It's so hard to tell what's going on. Like they are like the one that we get the closest look of, it's super gaunt. Like you can see like the outline of the hip bone and the shoulder bones. Like it's super, I don't know. And there's something weird kind of coming around. It's like collarbone. There's so many things it could be. Could it be Snoke or something related to Snoke? Could it be something related to Palpatine? It's hard to tell. You have to remember it's a job being directly done for Moff Gideon. So if Moff Gideon has no ties to like the Sith Eternal and Exegol, then this is something else entirely different. However, it is possible that Moff Gideon was another part of the Emperor's many contingency plans, and part of the thing he's been tasked with doing is trying to help with the strand casting, the genetic experimentation going on over on Exegol. Anyways, with Mando freaking out about Moff Gideon being alive, he jets back to the school to secure Baby Yoda, while the rest of the crew fights their way out of the base. They take the armored troop transport that they saw at the beginning of the episode, and that we saw at the end of last season, and they take off and crush the Mythrol speeder on the way out. We have a bunch of scout troopers that take chase on some speeder bikes, and Greef mans the tank's cannon. They manage to get down to just one scout trooper left who's about to drop a grenade down their hatch, but Greef manages to spin around and see him on the viewfinder and blast him off the tank. 4 Outland TIEs go off to make chase while the base goes up in flames, and we have a cool sequence with all of those chasing the tank. One thing I did want to point out is, so the TIE fighter pilots often have, this plain black helmet. I mean, plain in color, not in design. But these had some gray accent colors. It's kind of hard to tell, as far as I know, there's no real definitive meaning for what that demarcation would be, but they all have it uniform on all 4 pilots' helmets as far as I could tell. My assumption is it might have to do something with like the science corps, so, like they're there as like pilots to guard this research base, and that's what this is for. Whether it's like the engineering groups or part of the Tarkin initiative. There's a lot of different kind of like R&D groups within the Imperial military, and I'm assuming that they are specifically denoted as ones to guard that. Greef manages to take out one of the TIEs before his gun gets blown up, and it's not looking super good for the crew, but that's when the Razor Crest swoops in and guns them all down. Baby Yoda's in the back with his cookies, doing kind of a little wave in the air, and Mando, after taking out 2, does a sweet air brake 180 turn to spin and joust the last TIE as he guns it down, and Baby Yoda spits up some nice blue cookie all over himself, and as they coast in, Din takes his cape and dabs him off. So, super fatherly moment as they fly off to their next location of Corvus, and we cut away to see the New Republic cop from the episodes prior question Greef about Din's appearance, and on his way out he tries to get Cara Dune to join up with New Republic. So that's the end of our Navarro adventure, but we see one last scene on the Arquitens ship. It's Moff Gideon's command ship, as far as we are aware. A Mimbonese technician who helped repair the Razor Crest tells a Imperial officer that they planted a homing beacon on Mando's ship, and that officer goes to inform Gideon of the news. And he tells them they'll be ready for the moment, and yada yada yada, big plan in action, and he turns back to his rows upon rows of Dark Troopers. So I'm sure you've seen it by now, but the Dark Troopers are from the Dark Forces games from the old LucasArts age, and in this iteration they seem to be just straight superpowered droids that are going to be a big deal to fight in probably the end of this season. It's hard to know how they're going to act just because it's an adaptation from Legends, so there could be a lot that's going to be changed, but it definitely is a big threat to Mando and the rest of his crew. We're going to hop right over to Chapter 13 because there's not much point in me speculating what's going to happen next when I already know what's going to happen next. So next on to Chapter 13, The Jedi. We start off on Corvus, which we were told earlier by Bo-Katan that it's a forest planet, but it's looking not so hot right now. Very scorched earth. And there's a raid bell ringing above a village, and a bunch of guys fighting outside. And they are fighting none other than Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka cuts through them all and makes her way to the village, and there the leader tells her that I'm going to kill all the civilians if you come in closer, so you better back off. So Ahsoka says, alright, cool, well, I'm here for some information, but I'll give you a day to decide. Mando then comes in, approaches the village, and they send him to go hunt the Jedi. He goes out, finds her, they meet up, talk for a while, and he agrees to help her take the village in order to train Baby Yoda. They do so. She tells him she won't train him, but Mando is tasked with finding his next possible place to take Baby Yoda. So that was the big, super quick plot overview. But here we go with the more nitty-gritty. Just like, I gotta go off first with, obviously, Ahsoka being in this episode was incredible. I mean, she's the I guess, well, as far as I'm aware, the second originally animated character to come into live action, with Saw Gerrera being the first. So it's super awesome to see this character come to life in this way. We had these leaks about Rosario Dawson playing her a long time ago, like I would say as far back as like March probably, and I didn't know how to feel about it, but I'm happy that it happened, and it was super cool to just to see that character. Was it perfect? No. I know a lot of people really cared about her head tail length. I didn't really. I mean, it's like, is it shorter? Yes, but I realized that it's for practical reasons, and for that much, I'm okay with it. They did do a very good job of trying to imitate Ahsoka's like fighting style and mannerisms from the Clone Wars and Rebels, but my problem, and a lot of people like that I talked to thought that they nailed it, and I thought they came close, but it just doesn't mesh for me as well as I wish it would. Like, I know what they're going for, and I know they're very close, but it's that snappiness of the animation style with Ahsoka's fighting in the cartoons is just, you can't replicate that with live action. And let's say, when she's like blocking blaster bolts and she's like swinging her blades and like quick snap movements, like it's like 1 to 2 frame, like from like 180, like from full extension arm to 90-degree arm. It's like very, very snappy, and you just can't do that in live action. So I get it. It just doesn't meld for me perfectly. Also, something I didn't expect to catch me off guard was how large her lightsabers are, because the last time we saw these lightsabers was in Rebels. When Rebels is stylized, the blades are like super like pinky thin, and these are regular sized lightsabers. So it's like, holy cow, those look like chonky, but it's just a normal lightsaber that's not stylized. So that kind of threw me off for a little bit, but I kind of got over it over time. When we did get some nice detailed shots of the lightsabers, they did look nice. The hilts are beautiful. So anyways, back to the beginning. The magistrate is the one who is leading the village and says she'll kill people if Ahsoka doesn't stand down. So at this point, I've kind of gathered that magistrate is like a sub-Moff level kind of position, because we know Greef was a magistrate. They both rule like some cities on planets. It's unclear how large their power goes or how wide it goes, but they have similar roles. They both have they also wore like the same cloak, and they have very similar like epaulets on their shoulders. Between the woman here and Greef Karga, with like those like kind of bronze decorations. She has a chain that connects hers, while he has just like a black band of fabric. But anyways, when Mando coasts in, he tells Baby Yoda to take a seat. But Baby Yoda, of course, just wants the shifter knob, the nice silvery shifter knob. So he uses the Force to unthread it and pull it off. And really, up to this point, we haven't seen Baby Yoda use the Force that much this season. He used it to kind of like pull the eggs to himself. He used it to steal the cookies. He did it here, but there's really not we're not seeing it that much. So we'll see if there's like a big explosion of Force activity in the last few episodes. But it's been pretty low key, I would say, this season. When he gets to the town, he asks for more information, and he's questioned first by Lang, the mercenary at the gate, before they let him in. And he tries to engage with the locals, but no one's there to speak with him. The magistrate summons the Mando to meet with her in the kind of walled garden in the back, and it very much reminds me of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, kind of with like the Southern Water Temple, the Northern Water Temple, and then like little bits of influence from the Earth Kingdom, which I mean, it goes to say this reminds me of like Eastern culture, more or less. Which there basically is a koi pond in the back, so it kind of makes sense. He walks past a bunch of civilians in these like electrocution cages, which I swear I've seen them somewhere in Star Wars. I want to say it's KOTOR, but I did 10 minutes of Google searching, and I couldn't find them anywhere. But I feel like these are not new. Wikipedia lists them as electrocution cages, but there's no article for it, so I really don't know where to go from there. But I'm really sure I've seen these before. But we find that the magistrate has quested him with killing a Jedi and offers him as payment a staff of pure Beskar. He heads out to go find Ahsoka, and we see Morai the Convor, which is super cool. Morai is basically an owl who has followed Ahsoka through the series since Clone Wars season 3, I think, with the son and the daughter episodes. So that's super cool that now this has also made its way to live action. So I guess this is now the third animated character to make it from live action if we count animals. But Morai is a super interesting kind of like, I don't know how to describe it to someone who doesn't know. It's a animal that has strong ties to basically a Force god that has followed Ahsoka since then, and is kind of just it's kind of just like Ahsoka's not calling card, but it's a signal that Ahsoka is nearby normally. When he gets to this coordinates he was given, and she ambushes him before they fight too much, he tells her that he was sent by Bo-Katan, and she goes to speak with Baby Yoda for a while. They converse with the Force during the evening. We learn a few things about him. His name is Grogu, super cute, and kind of glad his name doesn't start with Y, because if it's Yoda Yaddle and I don't know, Yothar or something, whatever, I might get a little ridiculous. But he was raised on the Jedi Temple in Coruscant, and you'll have to remember he was born basically the same year as Anakin, if that gives you a better timeline assertion. And he was trained by many masters at the temple before he was hidden away at the end of the Clone Wars and taken from the temple by someone. We don't know who. After that, his memory becomes dark, and Ahsoka does name drop Yoda, saying that this was the only one that she'd ever seen like him. So, a lot to unpack there. So he has some formal Jedi training, probably was taken to the temple at a very young age, even for him. I'm talking in years, not like maturity age. And he probably was there around, he would have been there probably before Anakin. Honestly, around the same time as Ahsoka, really. So we don't know if he was like only with a select group of masters on a smaller scale, and that's why we haven't, obviously we haven't seen him before, that's fine. But why, maybe Ahsoka doesn't know who he is. But we also need to know who took him away. So he goes through some bad stuff. We don't know if a Jedi had taken him away, if someone else had taken him, and he gets intercepted. We know he ends up with pirates in like 40 years later, or 30 years later, but that's all we know. What came between is still a mystery. Ahsoka then asks if he can still use the Force, and Din wants her to train him, but she doesn't want to. But she decides to try and test him in his abilities in the morning. She tries to get him to lift a rock, but he doesn't want to do it, so she gets Din to step in to see if that'll motivate him, and he pulls out the shifter knob, which he pulls away immediately with the Force. But Ahsoka's afraid to train him because of his attachment. He has a clear attachment to Din, and Ahsoka is hesitant, giving her pass with Anakin, says no. But she says she could help him if Din helps her take down the Magistrate. Din gives her a little bit more information about the army on the way in, which includes 2 HK-87s, which are some hunter-killer assassin droids, super cool. And we learn from Ahsoka that the Magistrate is Morgan Elsbeth, who her people died during the Clone Wars, and she kind of went crazy, just kind of ripping up worlds to get resources to build the Imperial Starfleet. They get there, and Ahsoka takes out the guards by the gate, and then goes into the main street to confront everyone. She throws Din's pauldron down as a ploy to make them think that she took him out, and she asks for Elsbeth's master. They open fire, and she runs away. And this is her running away. Honestly, was probably one of the most Ahsoka type visual vibes I got. And Elsbeth orders to execute the prisoners when Mando comes in and takes out all the guards. While Ahsoka's running around, we see a Tuca cat. So not a Loth cat. It's a Tuca cat, which a Loth cat is a type of Tuca cat, but whatever. Cool. I don't think it's the first time we've seen one though. And Mando and Lang have a face-off as Ahsoka goes to take out the Magistrate in the walled garden. They have a super awesome fight. It's very slower paced. It starts slow, kind of Obi-Wan Darth Vader on the Death Star pacing, but then picks up as the fight goes on. And she ends up splitting the Beskar spear and demanding for the location of her master, while Mando shoots Lang in the last HK droid outside. We cut back to Ahsoka, and she asks for her master's location, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And then we cut away, don't see anything else. The shopkeeper from earlier has made the new magistrate. Ahsoka gives Mando the spear, and Din has a beautiful, touching goodbye moment with Baby Yoda, or Grogu. But Ahsoka tells him again that she won't train him. The only option she gives them is to go to Tython and take Grogu to the Seeing Stone on top of the mountain with the abandoned temple. And if Grogu reaches out in the Force, a Jedi might come to him. So, a lot to unpack at the very end. We got Grogu's backstory, which we've already hit. We have Thrawn, and Thrawn is huge. If you are this deep into this podcast and you don't know who Grand Admiral Thrawn is, I don't know what to tell you. He's an awesome blue space dude in the Empire who is not always Imperial and comes from the outer reaches of the galaxy and disappeared at the end of Rebels with Ahsoka's friend, and now we don't know what happened to him, and it's a big deal. And he's also a character from the 90s who is everyone's favorite. It's a lot. If you don't know who he is, I don't know what to do. I think Eckhart Slider put out a video about Thrawn. Go check that out. But anyways, why would Ahsoka be asking for Thrawn? Well, the obvious answer is that she's looking for Ezra. He disappeared with Ezra at the end of Rebels into who knows where. And if she knows Thrawn's out there, then he would have the next best idea of where Ezra was if we haven't found him yet. Speaking of Thrawn, though, it is important to notice that apparently the HK droids had the 7th Fleet logo on their shoulders, which is the Imperial fleet that Thrawn commanded while he was Grand Admiral. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. I've posited the super far-fetched theory, which will definitely not happen, that maybe it's not about Ezra, although that's part of it, that Ahsoka is going on like a big Force quest since she doesn't identify with the Jedi to just find some deeper meaning than the Force. And maybe the Chiss had some information, or she was looking for a Chiss Skywalker to help with that journey. There's no way that's going to happen, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Throw crap at the wall and see what sticks. Anyways, that was that. And then the biggest thing we have to hit on before we're done is Tython. So Tython is a very important world in Legends. It first appeared in the Darth Bane trilogy and was pivotal there as a Jedi homeworld. And we find out later in the Dawn of the Jedi comic book series that Tython was the origin of the Jedi Order as a whole. So super important there. It has made very few scant appearances in canon, in some of the Dr. Aphra comics mainly. It again had a old Jedi temple and was thought of as maybe one of the origins of the Jedi, but it's uncertain if that's the case. So either way, a big deal there. And who could come to Baby Yoda at this point, or Grogu, if he reached out? I'm gonna leave Ahsoka as an option just because you never know. Even though she doesn't identify as a Jedi, there's that. We have Ezra. He's still probably out there, especially if Thrawn's out there. We have the obvious option of Luke, but I don't know how they would handle it. There's been a lot of people fan casting Sebastian Stan as Luke lately on Twitter, and I kind of love it, but I don't think they'd do that right now. It would be so out of nowhere for them to bring Luke Skywalker into this season that I just don't see it happening. So, but he, obviously an option. We have Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. We don't know what happened to him, but as of, I'm trying to think of when Fallen Order, I think, takes place, midway between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, but as of that point, he's still alive somewhere, so that's possible. After that, it gets pretty dicey. I mean, I'm sure there are some random people, some random Jedi that lived that I don't know about in some obscure comic book that it could be, but there, I guess Seer is kind of, we don't know if she is going to fully become a Jedi again, but she definitely taps into the Force again towards the end of Jedi Fallen Order, so I guess, sure, we'll throw that in there too. I think the most likely option, it's weird because I don't know how Ezra will be, because Ezra's grown a lot over the course of Rebels, but he's still a kid. He's definitely way more mature. But is he in the position to train someone in the Force? I don't know. And we're only a couple of years, we're only 9 years removed, 8 years removed from the end of Rebels. So he's going to be, that's a lot of time to mature over what he already was. But he's going to be in his mid to late 20s. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. So I'm very much looking forward to when we get that answer. My prediction, I was talking with my girlfriend we were driving today actually. So my prediction for how the rest of the season goes, we have 3 more episodes. I think next week is going to be like another kind of quote unquote filler, just like some other side mission. I think the week after that is going to be a big, and it'll probably end with some Moff Gideon stuff happening. I think the week after that, the 7th episode of the season, will be heavy Moff Gideon conflict. And I think the end of the season will end with us going to Tython. I think that's probably how it's going to go. But, we might not get answers on this whole Jedi business or Thrawn business until the last episode of the season, if then. So we got a lot to look forward to. But I think I'm gonna leave it there. If you like what I had to say and like what you heard this week, I would suggest you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to that, whether that's YouTube, whether that's iTunes or Spotify, Google Podcasts. Check that out. Check out any of the other stuff I have on YouTube, whether that be Live from the Beacon or my occasional Star Wars Squadron streams on Twitch. It's all easy to find. You can go to thespiceden.com for articles and such. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Gramble for providing the music for this episode. And as always, may the Force be with you.